What if the most excruciating agony of your separation, the one that claws at you in the dead of night, isn't merely the absence of the person you once loved, or even the life you painstakingly built together, but the terrifying, gut-wrenching realization that in the process of losing them, you've somehow managed to utterly lose yourself? And what if the only path back to sanity, to a semblance of peace, involves a mental severance so profound, so complete, that it feels akin to emotionally and psychologically obliterating their very existence from the landscape of your inner world? This isn't about a gentle uncoupling. This is about a stoic erasure, a disciplined reclaiming of your mental and emotional sovereignty with such fierce intent that the ghost of their presence no longer holds any power over you. It sounds brutal, perhaps even impossible, but the torment you're enduring right now, that constant gnawing ache of a bond that refuses to break cleanly, is a far greater cruelty. You're here because the conventional advice has failed you, because time heals. All wounds feels like a platitude whispered across a battlefield, where you're still taking heavy fire. You're here because you suspect there must be a different way, a stronger way to navigate this desolation. You feel it, don't you? The endless loop of memories, the phantom limb of their presence beside you, the conversations that play out in your head, the rage, the grief, the bargaining, a relentless storm that leaves you exhausted, hollowed out, and chained to a past that is, by all practical measures, dead. You've tried to move on, to let go, but it feels like trying to outrun your own shadow. The world tells you to grieve, to process, to seek closure, often with the very person who is the source of your current anguish. But what if that approach, however well-intentioned, is precisely what keeps you tethered, keeps you bleeding? This isn't just about ending a legal contract or physically separating your lives. This is about performing a complex internal surgery to excise a part of your identity that was interwoven with another, and doing so with the precision and dispassion of a master surgeon. What I'm offering you today is not another gentle pat on the back. It's a set of ancient, battle-tested principles from Stoic philosophy, repurposed for the modern crucible of divorce. This is your guide to not just navigating the end of your relationship, but to fundamentally altering your internal response to it, to cultivating an unshakable inner citadel so strong that the external chaos, the memory of your former partner, can no longer breach its walls. You will discover why you've been failing to truly detach, why you remain emotionally entangled, and how the Stoic path, a path of radical acceptance, disciplined thought, and unwavering focus on your own internal locus of control, offers you the tools to leave your partner in a way that, for all intents and purposes of your emotional well-being, is as if they never existed in the space they currently occupy in your mind, the space of an active tormentor of your peace. This is about a profound shift in perspective, one that will empower you to stop reacting to the echoes of the past and start actively, deliberately, and powerfully building your sovereign future. Our first formidable task on this Stoic path to detachment is the cultivation of an unflinching gaze, the courage to confront the brutal, unvarnished reality of your situation. This principle, known in Stoicism as amor fati, or love of fate, is often misunderstood. It does not mean you must find joy in the pain of your divorce or pretend that the loss isn't significant. That would be a delusion. Rather, amor fati in the context of your separation is about accepting the irrefutable fact that the relationship is over, that this new reality is, without resistance, without bargaining with the past, without clinging to the wreckage. It's about looking the Medusa of your current circumstances directly in the eye, not to be turned to stone by despair, but to see it for what it is, a fact, like any other fact of existence, to be dealt with. Imagine a ship captain caught in a hurricane. He can curse the storm, he can lament his misfortune, he can waste precious energy wishing the winds would cease. Or he can accept the immediate, undeniable reality of the tempest and focus every ounce of his skill and being on navigating the vessel through it, or if the ship is truly lost, on his own survival. Your marriage was the ship. It has foundered. The storm is the divorce. Your ego, your hopes, your dreams for that shared future are now debris in the water. The Stoic approach demands you stop trying to reassemble the shattered planks of the old vessel and instead focus on reaching the shore, alone if necessary. Consider the story of James, a man whose wife left him after 15 years. For months, James lived in a self-created purgatory. He replayed every argument, analyzed every perceived slight, clung to the hope that she would come to her senses. His apartment became a shrine to their past life, her photographs still on the walls, her clothes still in the closet, her scent, he imagined, still lingering in the air. He'd call her, text her, seeking explanations, apologies, a sign that the door wasn't completely closed. He was, in essence, refusing to accept the verdict of reality. His suffering was immense, self-perpetuated by this refusal. Now contrast this with the approach of a hypothetical Stoic. Let's call her Sophia. When Sophia's marriage ended, the initial shock and pain were undeniably present. But after that initial wave, her practice of Stoicism kicked in. She understood that the decision, once made and communicated, was now a part of her fate. Instead of fighting it, she worked to accept it. This wasn't passive resignation. It was an active, courageous acceptance. She told herself, "This is what has happened. This is now the landscape of my life. My energy must be directed not at changing this unchangeable past event, but at how I respond to it, here and now." She methodically began to separate their lives, not out of spite, but out of a recognition of the new reality. She allowed herself to grieve, yes, but she did not allow herself to become lost in a fantasy of reconciliation or an endless loop of what-ifs. The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils or misfortunes, can be profoundly useful here, even retrospectively. While ideally, one might contemplate the possibility of a relationship ending during its course to lessen the shock, it can also be applied now. You can look back and see that all things human are inherently impermanent. Relationships, like all living things, have lifespans. To expect otherwise is to set oneself up for a rude awakening. By acknowledging this inherent impermanence, even after the fact, you can begin to frame the end of your relationship not as a unique personal failure or an unbearable cosmic injustice, but as a manifestation of a universal truth. This doesn't diminish the personal pain, but it contextualizes. It robs it of some of its terrifying uniqueness. The practical application here is to consciously and repeatedly affirm the reality of the separation. This might involve journaling, not about your feelings of loss in a way that fuels them, but about the facts. The marriage contract is, or will be, dissolved. We are living separately. Our shared future as partners no longer exists. It might involve removing or storing items that serve as constant, painful reminders, not in an act of angry purging, but as a deliberate act of mental hygiene, of clearing the space for your new reality. It's about starving the part of your mind that wants to cling to how things were or how you wish they would be, and instead feeding the part that acknowledges what is. This unflinching gaze, this radical acceptance, is the bedrock. Without it, all other attempts at detachment will be built on sand. It's the painful but necessary first step towards ensuring your ex-partner's ghost ceases to haunt the corridors of your mind, because you have, with Stoic resolve, acknowledged that the house you once shared is, for all intents and purposes, of your forward progress, no longer standing. You are not erasing history, but you are refusing to live in its ruins. You are accepting that that chapter is closed, written, and now part of the unalterable past. Having faced the unvarnished truth with the unflinching gaze of amor fati, our next crucial endeavor is to systematically sever the chains of attachment. This is where the Stoic principle of the dichotomy of control becomes not just a philosophical concept, but your most practical, powerful weapon in achieving the mental state where your former partner feels as though they never existed in terms of their ability to cause you present suffering. The dichotomy of control, famously articulated by Epictetus, posits that some things are within our control and others are not. Within our control are our own thoughts, judgments, desires, aversions, and actions. Outside of our control are virtually all external things, including the past, the actions and opinions of others, our bodies, to a large extent, our reputations, and certainly the feelings, decisions, and new life of our ex-partner. The core of your suffering in the aftermath of a separation often stems from a fundamental, persistent, and deeply human error, attempting to control, influence, or emotionally react to what is firmly outside your control, namely anything to do with your ex. Think of it like this: your mind is a fortress, and you are its sole commander. For too long you've allowed the drawbridge to be down, allowing the actions, words, or even the imagined thoughts of your ex-partner to ride in and wreak havoc. Severing the chains of attachment means raising that drawbridge permanently and focusing all your resources on what happens within the walls of your own mind. Consider the torment of someone, let's call him Mark, who constantly checks his ex-wife's social media. He sees her happy, with new friends, perhaps even a new partner. Each post is a fresh stab of pain, a renewed sense of injustice or loss. He analyzes her captions, her photos, trying to decipher her feelings to see if she misses him, to gauge if she's winning the breakup. He texts her, sometimes angrily, sometimes pleadingly, reacting to these external stimuli, trying to elicit a response that will soothe his ego or confirm his fears. Mark is entirely ensnared in things outside his control. He's a puppet, and his ex-partner, unwittingly or not, holds the strings. His peace is utterly dependent on her actions and his interpretation of them. Now, imagine applying the dichotomy of control with Stoic rigor. You would begin by making an exhaustive mental or written inventory. What in this situation with my ex can I truly control? My decision to check their social media? Yes. My interpretation of what I see there? Yes. The stories I tell myself about their new life? Yes. My emotional reactions to those stories? Yes. With practice, my decision to engage with them, to seek validation or conflict? Absolutely. And what can I not control? Whether they post on social media, what they post, who they see, whether they are happy or sad, whether they miss me or have entirely moved on, whether they speak well or ill of me to others. Their entire existence post-separation is outside my sphere of direct control. The Stoic directive is then clear. Relentlessly shift your focus and energy from the latter category to the former. This is not easy. It requires constant vigilance. When the urge arises to check their Instagram, you recognize this urge as a desire related to externals, and you choose not to act on it. You exercise your control over your own actions. When a painful memory surfaces, or a what-if scenario about their current life begins to play in your mind, you acknowledge the thought, but then you consciously redirect your attention to your present circumstances, your goals, your own well-being, things you can influence. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wasn't writing about how to change the difficult people around him or alter the outcomes of battles he couldn't control. He was constantly reminding himself how to govern his own mind, his own reactions, his own principles in the face of these external realities. He wrote, "Today I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions. not outside. This is the essence of severing those chains. The anxiety you feel about your ex, the obsessive thoughts, the emotional turbulence, these are not caused directly by your ex. They are caused by your judgments, your interpretations, your attachments related to your ex. These are internal, and therefore they can be managed, disciplined, and ultimately diminished to the point of irrelevance. This is a profound shift. It means you stop looking for closure from them. Closure is not something they grant you. It's something you grant yourself by deciding that your emotional business with them is concluded, irrespective of their participation. It means you stop needing their apology, their acknowledgement of your pain, or their regret. Your healing becomes your own responsibility, independent of them. This is how you begin to make them not exist in your emotional present. They may exist in the world, but they cease to exist as a source of power over your internal state. This is an act of radical self-liberation. It's like meticulously untangling every single thread that connects your emotional well-being to their actions or perceived states of being. Each time you successfully redirect your focus inward, each time you choose not to engage with an external provocation related to them, you snip one of those threads. Over time, with persistent effort, the connection weakens, frays, and eventually dissolves. What remains is your own sovereign mind, at peace not because the external world has changed to your liking, but because you have mastered your internal response to it. This is the path to making their influence on your current emotional life a thing of the past, as if it never had the power to disturb you in the first place. With the foundation of radical acceptance laid and the chains of external attachment being systematically severed through the dichotomy of control, we now turn to the subtle yet immensely powerful Stoic virtue of temperance, applied specifically to the emotional landscape of your post-separation life. This is what I call the art of emotional austerity, and it's crucial for achieving that state where your former partner's memory or presence, real or imagined, no longer sends ripples of disturbance through your being. Temperance, in Stoicism, is not about emotional suppression or becoming an unfeeling automaton. It's about moderation, appropriateness, and the wise management of your passions, your intense emotions like grief, anger, longing, or even vengeful glee. It's about ensuring these emotions serve you rather than enslave you. In the context of a divorce, untempered emotions are like fuel poured on a fire. They prolong the agony and prevent the emergence of a calm, indifferent mind. Consider the common narrative of a messy breakup. It's often characterized by unrestrained emotional outbursts, public recriminations, prolonged battles fueled by anger and resentment, or conversely, by an inability to emerge from a swamp of grief and nostalgia. Someone behaving with intemperance might spend hours weeping uncontrollably, not as a healthy release, but as a continuous re-immersion in sorrow. They might fire off angry emails or social media posts in the heat of the moment, seeking to wound their ex, only to feel shame or regret later, and further entangling themselves emotionally. They might excessively indulge in behaviors designed to numb the pain, overeating, drinking, reckless encounters, which only offer fleeting relief while often creating new problems and keeping the emotional wounds infected. This is the antithesis of Stoic emotional austerity. The Stoic approach, guided by temperance, acknowledges the arrival of strong emotions. Seneca wrote extensively on anger, not denying its existence, but arguing for its irrationality and destructiveness, and offering strategies to manage it. When grief for the lost relationship washes over you, the temperate response is not to deny the sadness, but to experience it without letting it consume your entire being or dictate your actions for an indefinite period. It's like observing a storm from within a sturdy shelter. You see the lightning and hear the thunder, but you are not out in the open being battered by it. You might allocate specific limited times for reflection or grieving, rather than allowing it to bleed into every moment of your day. You might write about your feelings in a private journal, process them, and then consciously redirect your mind to constructive activities. When anger towards your ex arises, instead of immediately acting on it by lashing out, the temperate individual pauses. They question the utility of that anger. Will expressing it improve the situation? Will it bring lasting peace? Or will it simply provide a momentary, bitter satisfaction while further cementing the emotional chains you are trying to break? Often, the answer is the latter. Temperance guides you to choose a wiser course, perhaps to channel that energy into a vigorous workout or into assertive but calm communication if absolutely necessary for practical matters, or most often, into simply letting the wave of anger pass without action, recognizing it as an internal event that does not require an external manifestation. This emotional austerity extends to how you speak about your ex and the breakup, both to yourself and to others. Constantly replaying the story of your victimhood or endlessly dissecting their flaws keeps them vividly alive in your mind, making them a central character in your current narrative. Temperance encourages a more measured, factual, and less emotionally charged recounting if discussion is unavoidable, and a gradual reduction in the frequency of such discussions altogether. The goal is to reduce the emotional charge associated with them until they become a neutral fact of your past, not an ongoing source of present turmoil. Think of it like a financial budget, but for your emotional energy. Every moment you spend indulging in excessive grief, ruminating in anger, or obsessing over your ex is an expenditure of precious, finite emotional capital. Emotional austerity means you become a wise steward of this capital. You invest it where it yields returns, in your growth, your new pursuits, your present relationships, your peace of mind. You consciously divest from the black hole of emotional entanglement with your past partner. This isn't about becoming cold or heartless. It's about cultivating a profound self-respect, a dignity that refuses to be endlessly dragged through the mire of past hurts. It's about understanding that your inner peace is a treasure and protecting it with the discipline of a warrior. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly coached himself to meet events with equanimity, to ensure his inner state wasn't dictated by external provocations. He sought a calm, rational mind, even amidst chaos. This is the aim of temperance in your divorce. By practicing this disciplined moderation of your emotional responses and expressions, you drain the power from the memory of your ex. They cease to be an emotional trigger because you have systematically trained yourself not to be triggered. Their existence in your emotional world fades, not because you've forgotten them, but because they no longer elicit a strong, uncontrolled, intemperate response from you. They become, in essence, emotionally neutralized, a critical step towards leaving them as if they never held such sway over your heart and mind. Now we arrive at a pivotal juncture, a moment designed to shatter a common, pervasive, and ultimately disempowering myth about healing from a breakup. The aha moment that can fundamentally reframe your entire approach. For years, perhaps your entire adult life, you've been conditioned by popular psychology, well-meaning friends, and 1,000 romantic comedies to believe that the key to getting over a lost love, especially a spouse, lies in achieving closure. This elusive closure is almost always depicted as something you need from or with your ex-partner. That final conversation where everything is explained, apologies are exchanged, mutual understanding is reached, and you both amicably agree to move on, perhaps even wishing each other well with a tearful smile. Or it's sold as an arduous process of dissecting every minute detail of the relationship's demise, usually with their reluctant participation, until some grand understanding is achieved. The shocking, liberating, and profoundly stoic truth is this: the relentless pursuit of external closure is a trap. It's a mirage in the desert of your emotional pain. Most relationship experts, in focusing on this externally dependent closure, inadvertently keep you chained to the very person you need to detach from. They fundamentally misunderstand where the power lies. Stoicism teaches us something radically different. True, lasting closure is not a transaction with another person. It is an internal declaration of sovereignty. The real power isn't in getting them to understand, to apologize, or to participate in your healing. The real power lies in your unilateral decision to close the chapter, to accept what cannot be changed about their behavior or the past, and to radically change yourself, your focus, your responses, your internal narrative. You don't need your partner to change, to have an epiphany, or to give you permission to move on in order for you to achieve peace and build a fulfilling life. You need to stop waiting for that. You need to stop believing your peace is contingent upon their actions or their state of mind. Think about it. If your healing depends on them saying the right words, or feeling the right regret, or behaving in a way you deem appropriate, you have handed them the keys to your emotional prison. You are, in effect, still allowing them to dictate the terms of your freedom. This is the antithesis of Stoic self-mastery. The Stoic aha moment is the realization that you are the gatekeeper of your own closure. You can decide today that the investigation into what went wrong is over, not because all questions have been answered to your satisfaction, but because you choose to redirect your precious mental energy towards building your future rather than endlessly excavating a painful past. You can decide that their opinion of you, their current life, their feelings about the breakup, while perhaps once of paramount importance, are now irrelevant to your primary task: cultivating your own virtue, tranquility, and forward momentum. This isn't about suppressing curiosity or denying that questions might linger. It's about consciously deprioritizing those questions in favor of your own agency. It's like an investigator closing a cold case. Not all mysteries are solved, but resources are finite, and new, more pressing cases demand attention. Your new life, your inner peace, is that pressing case. This realization is incredibly empowering. It means your healing is not hostage to their willingness to cooperate or their level of enlightenment. It means you can start the process of making them not exist in your emotional control panel right now without needing anything further from them. The closure you seek is the feeling of peace, of detachment, of the emotional wound no longer aching. That feeling is generated from within, by accepting the unchangeable, by controlling your responses, by practicing emotional temperance, and by focusing on your own path. When you truly grasp this, the frantic need for their validation, their apology, their participation in your healing simply falls away. It's like realizing you've been searching for your glasses for hours, only to find they were on your head all along. The power to declare this matter concluded for yourself, by yourself, has always been within you. That is the Stoic revelation, and it's the key to unlocking the profound level of detachment implied by leaving your partner like they never existed. Not as an act of forgetting they were real, but as an act of rendering their past influence on your present emotional state utterly and finally null and void. You are not waiting for the door to close. You are walking through it and locking it decisively behind you, from your side. If you are truly exhausted, bone-weary from the relentless emotional warfare of a lingering attachment, if the thought of one more day spent with your mind shackled to the ghost of your past relationship fills you with a cold dread, and if you are now finally ready to commit to the disciplined, empowering, and radically self-honoring path of Stoic detachment, to build an inner fortress so impregnable that your peace of mind is no longer held hostage by memories or the actions of your former partner, to achieve a state where you can genuinely say their past grip on your emotional well-being has been nullified, then take this first, decisive action towards your liberation. Subscribe to this channel for more strategies on forging Stoic resilience and reclaiming your sovereignty. More importantly, declare your commitment in the comments below by writing, "My inner citadel is my own." This is not just a comment, it's an affirmation, a first step in rewiring your mind for profound, lasting detachment. And if this message has resonated with the steel in your own spine, share this video. Share it with anyone you know who is tired of being a prisoner of their past. Anyone who needs to stop waiting for external permission to heal. Anyone who needs to understand that the power to make an ex-partner not exist in their emotional present lies not in forgetting, but in the stoic mastery of their own mind. Your journey to emotional freedom, to that profound indifference where they no longer disturb your peace, begins not tomorrow, not when they finally get it, but now, with your conscious choice and deliberate action.